Saludos a todos y todas y bienvenidos a Guatemala.
Saludos desde Guate, no, desde Flores Petén, Guate.
Like the little boy from Voces Inocentes said, este cuento lo podría contar quien sea, pero me tocó contarlo a mí.
Buenos días. I rather sit in the back.
In other words, this story could have been told by anybody else, but this is my story.
Smells like bug spray.
Interestingly enough, the story of the little boy that I'm referring to, whose name is Chava, is very similar to that of any other Latin American country, where they've been affected by turmoil from civil wars and the survival of colonialism. A system built on inequality, an inequality that is still prevalent and noticeable in much of today's Guatemala. To tell this story, we have to talk about the Chicleros. So now we turn to Washington. The community of Washington was originally a camping development that housed the Chicleros. Washington has a small population that is somewhere around 1,600 inhabitants, in which there are mostly men, to total about 140 families. Washington, the name comes from Washak, meaning the number 8, and Tun, meaning stone, a word combination that was coined by Sylvanus G. Morley. Morley was a North American archaeologist that completed extensive research on Mayan civilizations in Mesoamerica on behalf of the Carnegie Institution. The community developed out of resource extraction within the Mayan Biosphere Reserve. It is similar to the development of towns around mines or any other location that is filled with an abundance of natural resources. However, unlike most other locations where natural resources are extracted, Washington is situated in a place that is directly connected to an ancient civilization that continues to have a visible and important presence. Quick intermission as you watch us extract cane juice the way the locals have been doing it for many years. The person in the chartreuse colored shirt is Nedia. She is an important community figure, and we will talk about her later on in the presentation. And now back to the story of the Chicleros. Chicleros is a word used to describe the persons that extract the gum sap from the tree called chico zapote or manil cara zapota. The word chiclero comes from the word chicle, which is a Spanish word for chewing gum or sticky stuff. We can describe the U.S. as being a piece of chicle because they oftentimes tend to stick themselves to most political public policies abroad, and their affairs in Guatemala are an example of their pegajoso tendencies. Pegajoso means sticky. I'll refer back to this later on. The Chicleros worked in chiclerias or chiclero campground developments. The Chico Zapote tree is abundant in the tropical humid forestry within the Mayan Biosphere Reserve that extends from the Department of Petén, Guatemala into Mexico and Belize, also known as the intermediate lowlands of Mesoamerica. The wood of the tree was a well-known resource to the ancient Mayas. The proof is in the findings of lentils of Chico Zapote that were found in various areas of Mayan temples. It is known that Mayans chewed it as a salivating stimulant, and it was utilized in ceremonies as well as for medicinal purposes. Even the word comes from the Nahuatl word tzitzcle with a spelling of Tzictle and of the Mayan word sicte, which is spelled Sicte. The dangers of nature.
Are you okay?
Sorry. You okay? Yeah. That just scared me.
Sorry, I just got 18 freaking sweaters on my finger and it hurts really bad.
You're okay?
Se está llena de espinas su mano acá.
Sí, espérate.
In 1848, the first U.S. chewing gum was produced. It was manufactured from sap spruce, but the production was short-lived due to the decline in trees. As a result, the producers turned to gelatong or Diara costulata, which they ended up mixing with chicle itself. In 1897, U.S. scientists arrived in Petén to study the properties of the sap from the trees and their environment. When they returned, they took with them chicle models. In 1898, the U.S. merchants entered through Belize and expressed to the rubber producers the importance of having various economic activities, emphasizing the initiation of a chicle market in the U.S. There had already been records of commercial chicle extraction since 1895, but by 1900, it became a booming economic sector for Petén along with Yucatan, Mexico, and Belize, which at the time was known as British Honduras. By 1910, Chicle was known as white gold, while the Chicleros themselves reaped the benefits as they were able to collect large amounts of income. They would soon waste that money in little time, while they would say, poco para un Chiclero, or it's nothing to a Chiclero. Basically, they felt as if they had money to blow, and they definitely made it rain. It is recorded in text that they used US dollar bills to light their Cuban cigars or to cork their liquor bottles. Unfortunately, it was a precarious economic situation for the Chicleros.
We are here in the jungle. Here in the howler monkeys.
During World War I, the Chicle business did not suffer the recession onslaught as its demands increased, as it was recommended for the release of tension, something that was common in the participants of war. The U.S. companies held a monopoly over the production of the product. Wrigley Export and the Chicle Development, which was also a subsidiary of Beechnut and American Chicle Corporation, founded in 1899, another firm, Adams, was able to gross $10 million in 1914, and by 1938, they grossed a total of $50 million US dollars. The companies, through monetary advances, hired the Chicleros, while President Ubico attempted to implement a system to secure their loyalty to the trade and production. However, the contractors preferred the credit system, a system that had been previously used in colonial times by the Spanish to maintain compliant Native Americans as capitalism was being implemented. A quick backtrack on history. It is told that Thomas Adams, a U.S. inventor of the 19th century, had a curiosity that was sparked by a Mexican ex-president. Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, whom was exiled to the U.S. at the time, had a large loaf of chicle from which he would intermittently tear off chunks at a time for him to chew on. As most other U.S. entrepreneurs with their pegajoso tendencies, he quickly saw it as a business opportunity, leading him to export 2,300 kilograms or 5,070 pounds. From the raw material that was imported to the U.S., he then decided to create small balls for distribution, to which he later on added flavors and coloring. This is when the original booming of the business in the U.S. occurred. Later on, John Colgan, a U.S. pharmacist, added flavor to the gum by mixing it with balsam of tolu. Tolum balsam is a sap-like substance that comes from the Myrosilum balsamum tree. It is used as medicine. People take tolu balsam for cough, bronchitis, swollen airways, and cancer. Tolu balsam is applied directly to the skin to treat bed sores, cracked nipples, cracked lips, and minor skin cuts. Then in 1880, a Cleveland producer created the world-renowned mint gum, a gum that is most sold throughout the world. The U.S., through its economic sector, had a strong hold of power in Guatemala. As soon as the gum company started to further develop synthetic gum, the need to extract gum from the Mayan forest was no longer necessary, and the effects this had on Chiclero communities was devastating. The pegajoso tendency of the U.S. doesn't only mean that they stick around because they tend to take what they bring while only leaving scraps behind. The U.S. companies do not develop communities that are sustainable, and it is up to the workers themselves to learn that, but unfortunately it is something that requires a higher intellectual level than most have the chance to develop. They only learn labor, and it is something that grassroots leaders like Neri are trying to change.
Aunque nunca la auspició, hoy le damos un buen uso y lo hacemos con amor. Entonces entenderás que esta mierda es natural y nada los cambiará y nunca acabará la pasión que por estas venas.
Now, this is only part 1 of my Guatemala experience. Part 2 will go more into what I mentioned that I would say about Neria and why all this history matters.
De una manera única, son sentimientos que crearon esta música y no es la última. Crossima con el camino, trayéndote la bulla para todos esos vecinos. Gracias, gracias, de una manera única, son sentimientos que crearon esta música y no es la última. Crossima con el Carlito, trayéndote la bulla para todos los vecinos. Gracias, gracias, de una manera única, son sentimientos que crearon esta música y no es la última. Crossima con el Carlito, trayéndote la bulla para todos los vecinos. Gracias, gracias, de una manera única, son sentimientos que crearon esta música y no es la última. Crossima con el Carlito, trayéndote la bulla para todos los vecinos.